Hello, good morning. Welcome to another episode of Quarantine Connect 2020. And today I have a special guest with me, somebody I admire a lot and somebody who's inspiring me to do more than what I do. Hello, Ahmed. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining me today. I know you have adjusted lots of stuff to be with me today, but yes, Ahmed is a wonderful LinkedIn personality. He has a massive following on LinkedIn that allows him to inspire more people all around the world. He is not in UAE, but he's from Australia, and I was able to connect with him through LinkedIn again. So the message is to use LinkedIn for better purpose than simply posting your profile picture and resume. Yes, Emmett. So even now, when LinkedIn has developed so much, and there's so many people who are doing so well here, I still hear from even business owners sometimes that LinkedIn is just for posting your resume and finding a job. So let's discuss this and let's understand how we can make better use of our LinkedIn. My first question from you is, how did you discover your passion for personal development?
I've been a fan of personal development since I'd say age 18 to 20. Um, I'm always about growth. So growth is one of my key core values. And whatever I'm doing, I'm looking to grow through it. But when I was about 18, I was working at a pizza restaurant and I was making pizzas and I was washing dishes. It was one of my first jobs. And I was there for a good couple of years. And after my time there, when I was about to leave, the owner of the restaurant actually sat me down and he said, I see a lot of potential in you and I want to give you something. And he gave me, and this is going to show my age because this was a good, let's say about 15, 16 years ago. He gave me a 24 disc CD set, which was Tony Robbins's Personal Power Part 2. And
Oh,
it's a 30-day program that takes you through success conditioning, peak performance, a lot of what Tony Robbins spoke about earlier. And I took that home and I put the first CD in. And yes, it was a CD. We had CDs back then. I put the first CD in and I'd never heard of Tony Robbins before. I'd never seen this man and I was addicted. It was incredible. I'd never heard anything like it. After that first CD, I did that 30-day program and I followed it religiously. And that then set me on this trajectory of personal development. And I went from Tony Robbins to a number of other people, and I learned from as many people as possible. I now take the mindset that I'm forever a student. I'm always constantly learning. Whatever I learn, yes, I try and pass on, but there's always something to learn and grow from.
yes, this is the right attitude actually. Because if we are open to learning, to acquiring more skills, to gaining more knowledge, we are actually having real growth possible. So if I give you, okay, somehow I get this authority. If I give you a chance to go back 10, 12 years in your life, what would you do differently?
Wow. Well, look, I actually don't like to live with regrets. I feel that every single thing that I've done has been me on that right path to get where I am today. Um, what would I have done differently? Wow, I probably would have taken more risks. I probably would have been more willing to fail because I know that you fail forward, and the more you fail, the more you'll grow. So I've always been a type to be out of my comfort zone and take risks. But knowing what I do now, I would have taken a lot more many risks than I did.
Interesting. So, as a business owner, I have made use of LinkedIn for various purposes. I've met X number of people on LinkedIn. I have enjoyed exchanging knowledge with them. I've learned from them. I've enjoyed interacting with them. I've generated my leads through LinkedIn. So I have faith that I can use it for multiple purposes. As an expert on LinkedIn, I need to know more from you how business leaders can make good use of LinkedIn to grow their business.
LinkedIn is an incredible tool. And I've used LinkedIn to build a personal brand quite literally from scratch. I mean, I started my LinkedIn journey about 18 months ago now. To date, I've got about 230,000 followers. I've had many opportunities presented to me as a result. I've had a lot of speaking arrangements and opportunity to speak, and I've quite literally built a personal brand, which has then allowed me to then progress my career. In addition to that, I've understood the power of social selling. Actually, building a pipeline through LinkedIn, closing deals as a result of LinkedIn. It's such a powerful platform to find your ideal client profile and then create content to keep them interested and position yourself as an authority in that space so that you get to the point where you no longer have to chase leads and chase people. Eventually, they will actually come to you and ask you for your expertise. I've personally experienced that. I've witnessed that in many other people. But there's many different aspects of LinkedIn. So it's a rather broad question, but I would divide it into personal branding, and with that, content creation, lead generation, which can be done quite easily through tools like Sales Navigator, which is brilliant. And then obviously closing deals through the power of influence and positioning yourself as an authority. So there's many different facets to it, but I have complete faith in LinkedIn, both as a personal branding tool and as a lead generation tool.
So it has worked very well for you as well.
Yeah, but
to grow in different dimensions.
Very much. Look, about 18 months ago when I started the journey, I was in the property industry. I was a property strategist and I was the director of a property consultancy in Sydney. Within a very short period of time, I was able to position myself as an authority within the property space, using the power of content creation and positioning myself as that authority in that space. But over the course of the 18 months, I've been able to transition into the event space and the success industry into an area I feel I'm much more aligned with. And I spoke about my story earlier with Tony Robbins and how Tony Robbins was the beginning of my personal development journey. Right now, I'm in a position with a company called Success Resources. I'm their ambassador, and I get to work with people like Tony Robbins, promoting Tony Robbins events, talking about Tony Robbins events. So I feel like I've gone full circle in my personal development journey, and I owe that greatly to LinkedIn.
So it's a place where you can find a lot of opportunities. How is it working with the world leaders like Tony Robbins and John Lee and so many big names? How does it?
Look, it's incredible being around those characters. So of course they're not working in our office; they're all global, and they're all global thought leaders and speakers. And the way it works is Success Resources has them speak at our events, and sometimes they're events exclusively for someone like Tony Robbins or Richard Branson or Gary Vaynerchuk. Or sometimes we put on, let's say, a National Achievers Congress, for example, which is an event that we have coming up that involves many of them. But being in a space where you're constantly surrounded by experts in their field, people that are quite literally playing at the next level in life, they're the best in the world at what they do. It's incredible. And they say that you end up being like the 5 people, or you are the average of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. If you're spending time with people that are at the top of their game, top of their industry, it only lifts you up further. So I feel very blessed.
Yes, true. You are lucky.
Thank you.
We are planning on something together, and you'll be able to meet Ahmed in person as well in future very soon, because he's going to be with us at YesCo. While I'm thinking about lead generation, what do you think can be a good way, a good strategy for a business owner to get some leads through LinkedIn? Do you think that just personal branding and positioning himself as an authority is enough, or content alone can help? And how often, if a business owner is focusing on simply content strategy, how often should he post? What kind of content can actually bring people to him to close, like thinking that they should close a deal with this person?
Great questions. And look, I think it should be a combination of inbound and outbound. Okay, so it should be a combination of you putting out content that answers people's questions, and not just putting out any content, but putting out questions and answers that your audience actually wants to hear about. So specific pain points for your target audience and addressing that within the content. Because what that does is obviously, it puts it out to your audience. They have their questions answered. They see what kind of expertise you have, and they're more than likely to reach out to you. Now, you have to keep in mind that content creation is not a short-term game. It's a long-term game, meaning you can't put out one piece of content once every 6 months and expect to get leads from that or expect to get some interest from that. It has to be consistent. The only way you can position yourself as an authority is if you're consistently positioning yourself as an authority. Now, in terms of how often should you post content, well, I like to look at it practically. And the idea when you're posting content is that you're always in the newsfeed. You want to make sure that you're always in the newsfeed so that you're always visible. Now, you can be in a newsfeed by posting content or by engaging in other people's content. And I recommend you do both. But posts on LinkedIn, when you post a video or a text post or an article, whatever it might be, but I'm talking specifically about text posts and articles, they tend to have a lifespan of about 1 to 2 days. And after about 1 to 2 days, you don't really see them in a newsfeed unless they've gone viral and they disappear into a LinkedIn black hole. So my recommendation is, if you take that into account, try posting at least once every 48 hours if you really want to keep things consistent. Now, that doesn't have to be a video every 48 hours, but at least something that adds value. I'm also a big believer in quality over quantity. There are some people that'll tell you to post, 4 or 5 times a day. For example, Gary Vaynerchuk posts, multiple times, 5, 6 times a day on each platform. And he does an incredible job, and he's able to put out quality because he's got a team of 10 to 15 people to assist him. If you can't put out that much quality, my recommendation is focus on the quality over the quantity. So if that means 1 post a day or 1 post every 2 days, but it is quality and it is actually adding value, then do that. Now, in addition to creating content, the idea is you want to try and get interest from people. People will let you know if they're interested. There are some people that will watch your content and they won't even engage, and then they might send you a direct message. And there are other people that will engage. They'll like your content. They'll comment on your content. The magic actually happens behind the scenes in direct messaging. So if you see someone comment on your post and show a bit of interest, then send them a direct message and say, look, I saw that you commented on my post. I have some additional resources that I can send you. Are there any specific questions you'd like me to answer? How can I assist? Would you like to jump on a call? That's a way to initiate the conversation, actually get in front of them, whether it's via a Zoom call or a face-to-face. So to answer your question, it's a combination of both.
Yeah, sometimes people from different regions also approach. For example, somebody will ask, let's say, a coach to help them with building their personal brand. But they live in Africa, and the person lives in an entirely different region on a different continent. In such a scenario, what do you recommend? How they can continue with the communication flow, and what is the best strategy of serving such a client?
Well, look, I think we're in a digital age. I don't think it doesn't really matter where where your coach is located or where someone is assisting you is located, as long as culturally they understand how you want to approach things, and there's no big gaps between you and them culturally and professionally. But I don't think location comes into it. I think more so than anything is experience. You have to ask yourself, have they actually done it? If you want to hire someone to build your personal brand, have a look at their personal brand. Have they actually built a personal brand themselves? If they're helping you create content, are they creating content and are they doing well with it? So make sure you're looking at these things, because I see so many people on LinkedIn that are talking about personal branding or teaching people how to create content or teaching people how to do video. And then you look at their own profile and they're not doing any one of those things. It's like having a business coach that hasn't even had a successful business. So just make sure whoever it is that they've got credibility by having actually done it for themselves or at least other people.
So everybody has to walk the talk before they get the leads and before they 100%. Get any clients.
100%. Look, the only reason I talk about LinkedIn, and I'm not
Yeah.
even a LinkedIn expert, the only reason I talk about it is because I've done the things that I talk about.
Yeah.
I talk about content creation because I've put out many pieces of content. A lot of them have gone viral, and my content gets really good engagement because I've
Yes.
built up to it. And I talk
That's how
about
I found
LinkedIn.
you.
Exactly right. I talk about personal branding, not because I'm a personal branding expert, because I've built my own personal brand, and it's proven. You can see that. So it's important to make sure that people have actually been there, done it, and can actually show you the way to actually proceed.
So actually making things happen and work for you, like walking the talk, can actually help you position yourself as an authority. This is one point. Then posting content consistently will certainly work. It will position you differently. People will be able to see you more often on LinkedIn, and they will follow you for the same. And they might come for the services depending on how good your content is online. According to the new normal, what is the future of events? Because we both host events and we are both into events as well. So, what do we foresee? What's going to happen to our events? Are we going to continue with just the webinars, or are things going to get back to the way they were?
Look, this is going to be an interesting year. There's no doubt. I think the way this year has started off has been completely unpredictable. Nobody could actually pick it was going to completely change the landscape like it has. Success Resources for the last 25 years has been a top provider of events and is now positioned as a number one live events and seminar promoter in the world. Perhaps not right at this moment, considering that the number of events that we're doing live has completely reduced down to zero. Our next live events are actually scheduled for September. But between now and then, we're adding as much value as we possibly can in a digital space. So we're trying to provide the same level and quality of events in terms of the value that we can offer to our audience, but in a digital setting with a similar level of interactivity. Now, how is what's happening right now going to change the landscape going forward? What I see going forward, once the lockdowns have been lifted and we're all back to normal, is that, yes, it's going to be a slightly different normal. And it'll be a combination of live events and digital events, digital seminars, digital webinars, digital masterclasses, in addition to the live event space as well. So I think for a lot of people in the live event space, it's probably given them a bit of a kick up the bum if they haven't transitioned into the digital environment to do so straight away. And a lot of them have been forced to adapt almost instantly to make sure that they're still adding value and obviously bringing revenue in. So I think it's, with every challenge, there's opportunity. So I think it's been a bit of a blessing in disguise without taking away all the struggles and suffering that people are currently going through, which obviously is not ideal. And I hope that we all get through this rather quickly.
So, in all of your experience, coming back to you now, not to LinkedIn, in all of your experience on LinkedIn, what's been the most memorable part, something that you remember and smile every time it comes to you?
I like having fun with my content, and I like doing things with my content that no one on LinkedIn has done before. And so one of the most fun pieces of content that I put out that every time I think about now puts a smile on my face is myself and another gentleman named David Breyer from the States. We put out a video called, God, what was it? What was it called? The world's greatest music video. LinkedIn's world's greatest music video. And we put that video out, and it actually included 70 or so influencers. And it also included people like Damon John and a number of other key influencers. And they all got involved, and it was a really big community project. It involved a bit of a rap from myself and some beatboxing from David Bride, the other gentleman. And the video went viral. It got a lot of really good responses. And it ended up being featured in Forbes and Inc. So we were really pleased with the response. And look, we started off that project because it was fun, and it evolved into something much bigger. So yeah, that's one project I'm very pleased with, and we look to do a number of other similar projects down the line.
Do you have that with you, the video?
Yeah, of course, of
Because
course.
I'm interested. I want to watch it.
If you go on my profile in the featured section, you'll see it listed in the featured section.
All right, great. I will check that out. What made you think that LinkedIn is for you?
It was actually an experiment to start off with. I'd experimented with Instagram, with Facebook previously, and I decided to jump on LinkedIn just because I had a few friends that were talking about it. And it was initially just an experiment to see what the platform was like, because I heard that it had changed from being, a online CV predominantly to now being almost a content creation platform. And so I experimented with content creation, and I found my community. I found my tribe. I found a number of people that appreciated what I did and liked what I did, and it gave me a lot of confidence to continue putting out that content and trying to differentiate myself. So, look, it started off as an experiment and ended up being something that, without sounding dramatic, has completely shifted my life and my career and the way I approach branding in general. So, yeah, it's been incredible.
Interesting. So, what measures have you taken to adjust to the new normal, the routine that has completely restricted us to digital ways of doing things? And we can no longer meet so many people in person that we used to meet in our routine. And, we never thought that we are going to stay at home and be digital in this way. So, how do you feel about it? And what measures you have taken to be more productive every day?
I'm very much used to working from the office. I've always been an office type worker, where I do what I need to do in the morning. I might go to the gym or whatnot, and then I go to the office. And while I'm at the office, I'm working. And when I leave the office, I come home and I have family time. And that's always been the way I've approached it. Right now, we're in an environment where that's all being thrown into the mix at the same time. Right now we're working, we've got our family around us, we've got to squeeze in the exercise in the gym, and it's a matter of time management. So I've been managing my time as best as I possibly can, focus on what's my priority. What am I going to get the most, what am I going to get the best results with based on what I spend my time on. And it's been a work in progress. I'm not going to lie. I'm still adapting to it. But every day I'm learning to be a lot more productive than I previously was. So it's just a matter of putting in some extra discipline and acknowledging the fact that, this is the environment that we're in, whether we like it or not.
Yeah.
And we can either rise up to the occasion or not. So, yeah, I'm adapting to it.
And even if we look at it this way, when we were going to our offices, like in routine, we were still very digital and a lot of communication was happening the same way. We were still using lots of applications during our day. We were still writing a lot of emails. We were still talking through our phones more than meeting in person. With me, at least, that was the case. So it's a little bit of change, not much. It's just that we are bound at home. But it's nice. We all need to stay at home and stay safe. Thank you
Yeah,
so much,
absolutely.
Ahmed. It was amazing to meet with you today and talk about LinkedIn. Uh, I'm sure that a lot of people will make use of different tips that you have shared here. For more, you can also connect with Ahmed on LinkedIn and check out his YouTube. You can find the link in comments below. Thank you so much for joining me.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.